And welcome, Lou. It is brilliant to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm quite excited, actually.
Wonderful. Just for everyone who's tuning in, we have the wonderful Lou Irvin here today from Wellbeing Rebels. And I've known Lou for just over a year now. And ever since I've met her, I've just been totally blown away by her energy and just the depth and empathy and understanding of this human being has completely blown me away. So I'm really, really excited that today we're going to get to tap into lots of that knowledge that she has around well-being, and also really talking to her personal experiences around body image. So thank you so much, Lou. It is absolutely brilliant to have you here.
That's okay. I'm feeling all warm and fluffy now. All those lovely words.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about Wellbeing Rebels and how that came to be?
Yeah, Wellbeing Rebels was very much from my own personal journey through sort of mental health recovery. About 5, 6 years ago now, I had really poor mental health in terms of, depression, anxiety, and it got so bad I couldn't even leave the house for I think about 3 days at a time. So yeah, I just became, I suppose, I hit rock bottom and just became really interested in how to get well again. So as well as doing the normal sort of going to therapy, getting medication, I just kept thinking, but what else can I do to help myself to get well again? So I just started reading everything I could about well-being, everything from what happens in your brain when you're depressed, what happens in your, biology when you've got anxiety, to all the different things that could help. And it was amazing because there was things that I just you'd never would have thought of. So for example, when I had really bad anxiety, it was talking about martial arts and boxing helping. And I was so desperate at that point. I was like, okay, great. I'm going to do boxing. At that point, if someone had told me to stand on my head and sing happy birthday and it helped depression, I would have given it a go. I think just through, my own journey and connecting with lots of other people who'd also had poor mental health and recovered and learning from them, I suppose I just looked around and I thought, we're all so resilient because we've all overcame such adversity. I'd sit in these support groups and think, we've all overcame such adversity, but a lot of the time, when you've got poor mental health, there's that head tilt and the hand on the shoulder, that kind of, oh, poor you, and that kind of viewing someone like a victim. Whereas what I've seen around me, especially some of the sort of women's support groups I went to, is just, resilience and courage. And real compassion. Yeah. So I suppose I wanted to start a movement where we celebrated people who, live with poor mental health or have recovered from it. And we celebrate the resilience and the courage they have. And we see those people as well being champions in our community, people we can learn from. And just help break down the mental health stigma. So no big task, but no small feat. But so I think it's a movement of Wellbeing Rebels where we celebrate our own resilience, overcoming adversity. We recognize that. Yeah. I think the way we think about mental health in that binary way, good mental health and poor mental health, it's really unhelpful. That judgment of what does good mental health look like, what is poor mental health. I'd rather if we just said we all have mental health and every day it's changing, and every day we're learning and we're growing and we're building resilience, and everyone has mental health. That feeling of we're all in it together. No one doesn't have mental health. And I think in a strange way, COVID and what's happened over the last few years, I think has helped that, because people that have never had mental health issues or had struggles before have started having them. And with that comes their lived, they then have their own lived experience. They then have compassion for other people. And I suppose hopefully that understanding of that everybody has mental health, that poor mental health can happen to anyone. It really can.
I wanted to talk about when you have something that you found that you really love doing. For you, do you set any goals around that? Do you start thinking about kind of improving on your performance? And how do you manage that? Or do you like to just be intuitive and...
Yeah, I think it's a really great question, actually, because I think everyone's so different. Well, for myself, it's probably a little bit different in that I come from a place of being in recovery from an eating disorder where numbers were something I used to punish myself with. So I'm very wary of getting too attached to numbers. So for example, I don't own scales in the house. I don't track, track figures like that. But what I do is, it's about how I feel in my body. And my goal is, it's quite funny. I don't think I've ever said it out loud like this before, but it's really to feel a bit kick-ass. It's to feel strong in my body and a bit kick-ass, and lifting weights makes me feel like that. The bigger the weights get, I'm like, "Oh, the heavier they get, the stronger they get, the more I feel my muscles, I feel my body." Yeah, it's like, gosh, it sounds really cheesy when you say it out loud, but I do feel like all the training that I've done, all the kind of weight training and cycling has been like falling back in love with my body again. It's been, yeah, like befriending my body, and but it's falling in love with it again, because there's moments where I lift weights and I'm like, I cannot believe my body is doing this. I lifted a weight the other day, and I had a sort of outer body experience where I thought, who am I? I didn't know I was this person that did this thing. And it's like, but Lou, you're doing it. Like, this is who you are, and your body can do this. And I sort of came in back into my body, and that was that kick-ass feeling. It's like, yeah, I am someone who weightlifts. So I think, yeah, so for me it's about how I feel. It's definitely that mind body connection, feeling strong, feeling embodied. Yeah, and I think when you're talking about goals, the only kind of fitness goal that I have is to be able to do. I'm sure I've shared this with you before. I've never been able to. I've never been able to do a cartwheel since I was a child. So my goal, my visual goal, is I'm going to be strong enough to do a cartwheel on the beach by the summer. It's like the most joyous goal. Like, before, goals were something I used to punish myself with. It'd be like, you have to do this, you should do this. Whereas a cartwheel just, it represents playfulness and fun and joy and happiness, and so every time I think about it, I feel joyful. So yeah, it's just really lovely when everyone's like, oh, you're weight training, what are you building up to? And I'm like, a cartwheel, that's what I'm building up to.
Oh, so good. Yeah, what a joyful image. It just sounds so visceral. Like, when you're going
Yeah.
to do the cartwheel, you know how you're going to feel in your body when you do it.
Oh, definitely.
Playfulness. Yeah. And I think I was definitely interested in your perspective around that, yeah, not falling into that trap of sucking the fun out of the thing because it becomes about numbers, and it becomes about maybe looking at what other people can do, or even just comparing to yourself can sometimes be quite a trap. Yeah, and just remembering that, like, showing up and training and how that makes you feel afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the main thing that I focus on. Because even you're talking about like the numbers thing, like comparing yourself against yourself. Yeah, that's also something I'm really aware of, because recognizing that I feel different, every day, every week. Depending on how I'm feeling, my mental health, got the time of the month, all those different things affect how I show up for training. So the amount I can lift or what I can do will change. So for me, the win is showing up. It's showing up regardless of how I feel, regardless of what's going on. It's like showing up for myself. It's being able to say to myself, regardless of what's going on in my life just now, I'm still going to give myself the gift of this next hour of me really loving on my body and really enjoying being in my body and really, making it strong. Or if it needs it, maybe having some more rest than I normally would. But yeah, that's what I focus on. So I think the goal, the kind of win for me is that all through lockdown, I've shown up to work out twice a week, which, again, I'm saying it loud and I'm like, who am I? So for anyone listening, if you're like, I'm just not that person, I was definitely not that person before. I was someone who sat in my pants and ate Ferrero Rocher. And,
definitely still be both those people.
Yeah.
Proof.
I'm not sportsy. I was never outdoorsy. I never did anything like that. So the motivation for me is definitely how it makes me feel about myself. Yeah.
If you were describing your relationship with your body as the plot of a film, what genre would that film be? What would that film look like?
Oh, I know, it's such a good question. I think it's changed over time. I think in my younger years it was a horror film. I think yeah, I was so disconnected from my body, from what was going on, and I was on the edge of a knife all the time. Like, yeah, it's like I couldn't. Yeah, it was just quite terrifying, actually. But I do think now, as an adult, and having done lots of work on my mental health, on sort of being in recovery from my eating disorder for a few years now, It is, as cheesy as it sounds. I would say a really cheesy romantic film where I love on myself a lot now, you know? I'll look in the mirror, I'll, look at different parts of my body, I'll thank them for what they've done for me. I'll really celebrate, yeah, all the small wins, whether that's just showing up for training or whether that's being able to do more of an exercise or do it for longer. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's definitely my relationship with my body is completely different from what it was before. Yeah.
You mentioned that you are in recovery from an eating disorder. Do you mind telling us about how that began, and what happened to get you to
Yep.
recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking back, disordered eating started at quite an early age. I think like lots of people when they get into recovery from an eating disorder, when you start looking back, you start then being able to notice some red flags quite early on. So I think I used food as a coping mechanism quite early on. So for example, I have specific memories of feeling very emotionally distressed and eating lots of biscuits. And that was as young as like 8 or 9 years old. And then feeling better afterwards and being like, oh, if I'm sad, if I eat lots of sugary food, I'll feel better afterwards. Um, and then that kind of progressed into my sort of teenage years where I would start sort of binging basically when people weren't there. So if I was feeling quite stressed about exams or whatever was going on, I'd think, oh well, I'll buy some food, I'll binge in it, that'll make me feel better. Um, and then again, I suppose like how bulimia starts for a lot of people is you start, especially in your teenage years, you start noticing you're putting on weight. So the first time I made myself sick, I was like, oh, so I can eat all this stuff. I'll get really distressed. I'll eat all this stuff, I'll feel much better, and then I'll be sick, so I won't put on the weight. And you're almost like, yeah, well, this is perfect. This is the perfect, scenario. Little knowing that it's completely rotting your mind as you do it. So that just continued. Especially, I came out at quite a young age. I came out as gay when I was 16, which was really, really tough. And I think that also affected my relationship with my body. I had the sort of, I had every, I was a kind of, as you can see from the podcast, I'm very girl next door. I'm very straight looking.
For anyone that can't see Lou right now, she's wearing
yeah. So I had all these messages coming in that, and I remember someone actually said to me, "You can't be gay because you don't look gay."
Wow.
And me thinking, "Oh yeah, I don't look gay."
Yeah.
And I remember sort of cutting my hair off and trying to sort of look more gay to fit in with other gay people, who were my groups of friends. So that real feeling of like feeling like an outsider, feeling like I didn't fit in, and being rejected by a lot of people. I think that's when my eating disorder really got like its nails in, sort of gripped me. Because that's how I kind of coped and survived. And I think that just continued. And it wasn't until I became quite unwell 5 or 6 years ago, where I think like a lot of people, it's almost like you have to hit rock bottom for everything to fall apart to then start rebuilding. So when everything fell apart, it was a bit like, yeah, I should probably look at my eating as well. That's not so great. So I started going along to a 12-step recovery group, which was incredible. It's called Overeaters Anonymous. And it's anonymous, but I'm obviously speaking out about it because I think they always say, it's a attraction, not recruitment. So, people, it's up to people, to choose to go there. But for me, I discovered it online and I went along, and also started therapy. It's been a long, long journey. I mean, food, unlike alcohol, not that, one's easier than the other, they're just different. Alcohol, you can just stop drinking, and have complete abstinence. But food's messy, food's complex because you still need to eat and you still have to make those decisions around food at least 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has this kind of outside pressure, but for me as a young kind of gay woman, the gay scene at that time was very much, short pixie haircuts, very tall and slim girls. And that was very much the scene. So as a big blonde curvaceous woman, I absolutely did not fit in. I was quite often refused entry to gay clubs actually. Because they'd say not tonight, or it's so it was just, everything was telling me that I just didn't look right. I needed to be thinner, and I needed to be, you know, sort of, yeah, look like all the other gay girls. And it wasn't until I suppose I got into recovery, yeah, sort of 5 years ago, when I started going to the groups, that I started having a real, not just an acceptance for what I look like, but actually, I don't know what the word is. It was just appreciating it. Like, it sounds such a silly thing to say, but I suppose I hated the fact that I was so femme or girly. No matter what I did, I would still present as very girly. And yeah, and because I was very booby and very hippie, and there was a real acceptance. Yeah, going, actually, I've got a lovely shape of a body, and you know, and I actually quite like my boobs, and I like my hips, and I like the way clothes sit on me. And I need to look to find someone who also, I don't want to fit into another box. Like, this is my box. This is what I look like. This is who I am. But yeah, it is a long journey, and I'm very mindful of what I consume in terms of what I read, what I watch, what I listen to, what's on my news feed. And I try, and when I say mindful, I try and make sure that, yeah, as I say, I've got a variety of like body images, because I think that, well, I don't think, I know that really affects how I think, yeah, and feel about myself.
That's really helped me when I've been really struggling with my body, is to just go through my Instagram feed and be like, okay, do you know what? If I have a horrible feeling looking at this account, if I cannot help but compare myself to that person and start looking at myself and thinking I'm not good enough, then it doesn't matter how wonderful this person is. Of course, they don't mean to make me feel like that, but that's how I feel. So actually, I'm just going to get rid of them, and I'm going to go and seek out some people that, yeah, I look at them and I feel joyful.
Exactly.
So important.
Yeah, completely. And just all different bodies doing amazing things.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of Instagram accounts, like incredible mountain bikers that are all different shapes and sizes, but are winning medals, are doing really well. Yoga teachers, dancers that are different shapes and sizes. And I get so much joy from watching that, because I look at them and think, oh, if they could do it, maybe I could do it. At the moment is probably the fittest I've ever been in my life. But at the same time, it's been the least, how do I put this? Not the least interested, but it's the least obsessed I've been about how I look, which is interesting. It's like, because I've really focused on feeling strong and feeling a bit kick-ass and really enjoying it, it really is like the weight loss or the change in my body is like a byproduct. It's not it really isn't the focus. Before I'd obsess about sizes of clothes and things, whereas now, well, the great thing is all my clothes are super baggy, but it's lockdown, so I don't care.
There's something about having values and things you appreciate yourself for that can't change. And it sounds like so much of your exercise practice is about actually, like, you're showing up, you're capable of these things, you're discovering, you're able to push yourself, and therefore do more. So they're all things that can stay with you forever. Like, whether you're working out that month or not, that about yourself, and it stays.
Yeah, exactly. It's something about knowing you have your own back, knowing that I can look after myself, knowing that even when things aren't okay, they will be okay because I can look after myself. Yeah, it is. It's something about showing up for yourself that really mentally shifts things for you.
I think it's something you said before, and I thought it was brilliant. Maybe a few days ago when we were talking of self-care doesn't look like kind of the image that people have in their heads. Sometimes self-care is actually, no, I'm going to get out of bed and do that difficult work.
Yeah, completely. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like, yeah, like the self-care image is like paint your nails and have a bubble bath, or a face mask.
I actually saw an advert for that yesterday of a bubble bath company being like, look, this is self-care. Let's buy more things.
Exactly. Self-care is you need to buy something to then care for yourself.
Yeah.
But it's that whole like external thing, whereas actually, yeah, it's absolutely internal. And it's that what we talked about the other day, it's having that, and it is courage. It's courage because it's scary to do it's scary to say no to someone, or it's scary to have boundaries, or it's scary to speak up, or it's scary to deal with a bit of debt or a bill, so it's having the courage to working that courage muscle and going, oh, this is scary, but I know I need to do it to look after myself. And it's the same with working out. It's like, I really don't want to do it this morning. I remember one morning last week, actually, I was like, I really don't want to do it. I was thinking of every excuse I could give my partner as to why I could not work out that morning. I was literally going, I just don't feel right. I've got a headache. And before I knew it, my partner's like, okay, 5 minutes, we're working out, and left the room. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just quickly got ready and did it. And afterwards I was laughing to myself and I said, you know, I was literally just picking which excuse I was going to use. So yeah, it's just knowing that, you know, it's not easy. And the fear for me that morning was, oh, I'm just really tired. I'm a bit achy. And it's like, yeah, but you know, this is going to make you feel good, Lou. And I think, yeah, self-care is that really tough, unfortunately, inner work that we need to do to look after ourselves. And I think, yeah, it's a lifetime journey of how to look after ourselves. The more we learn about ourselves, our habits, our tendencies, you know, what we do that's helpful to look after ourselves and what we do that's really unhelpful. And when it tips balance, you know, the difference between, oh, I'll have something nice to eat, or spend time preparing a lovely salad and have something nice to eat. It's like the intention behind it could be a really loving thing, but equally I could buy lots of, you know, high sugar food, which to me the intention is to binge, which is a really harmful thing. So for me, it's always the intention behind it. It's the same with like watching stuff. The intention might be, I've worked really hard today, I'm going to watch a Disney film to make me feel really good. But the same activity could be like, actually, I feel totally overwhelmed, I'm going to zone out to Netflix for the next few hours.
Yeah.
Which is quite different. So for me, self-care is always checking in with my intention. It's like, what is your intention, Lou? Are you doing this thing to feel really good or to stop feeling? If it's to stop feeling, Houston, we have a problem. And then I have to stop and pause and go, okay, what's it you don't want to feel? What feeling's going on?
Yeah. Definitely relate to that one. For me, a practice, maybe it goes hand in hand actually with what is your intention, which I'm definitely going to kind of try and mobilize a little bit for myself. Is how did that make you feel, like getting to the end of an activity? And just like for me, like with exercise, I have to build that all the time, because if I don't build it all the time, then my brain sort of defaults back to like, exercise is punishment, exercise is something you must do, you have to. And actually it's weird, like I started to feel like that about my circus training, and I was so gutted because it was my happy place. And then I started to be like, well, it is my job, I should be training, I should. And it's taken this year for me to kind of say, well, no one's making me do this, and I actually want to show up and do it. Whoa, what is that? But yeah, just like building that link now for me whenever I train. If I train circus, I can train circus for literally 2 minutes. And I'm like, oh, all of that horrible feeling and that stress and being overwhelmed is literally just gone. But I have to tell myself that in words, loud, and be like, look, that made you feel great. Like, hang on to that. Know that it's probably going to take you 10 minutes of lifting weights to suddenly go, oh yeah, actually this is fine, it's not a big deal, it's totally possible. So yeah, I think there's so much to it's a dangerous territory, isn't it, to kind of ignore what you're feeling. And I think we shouldn't ignore it if every morning you're waking up going, I don't want to do anything. Why is that? What's going on? But also it's a good skill to kind of, you know, show up, try it, adapt your practice if you have to. You know, don't train through being totally miserable or totally injured, but adapt and show up, and don't make that something that drops out as soon as you get busy. Because like you said, self-care isn't always easy. It's not always doing what feels like the nicest, easiest thing for you at that moment.
You know, it's that idea of, if you've got that voice and I really don't want to do it, there's no point pushing it away, because the voice just gets louder, because the voice wants to be heard. So it's, you know, it's not pushing that part of you away, because that part of you is still a part that needs to be loved, and it needs something. All the time it needs reassurance. So yeah, I absolutely speak to so I speak to that. I will say that part of me, but I suppose it is a child, that part that goes, I don't want to do it, I'm really tired. And it's like, I know you're really tired, Lou, I know you don't want to do it, but you often say this, and then afterwards you see how great it was. So let's just come on with me, you can do it, you know. And even though I'm like, but I don't want to, I'm like, I know you don't. And a few deep breaths. Come on, I hear you. we can do it together. We have got this. So yeah, it's like, I remember a friend describing it to me once about she imagines like her kind of inner child is taking the steering wheel and being crazy, and as an adult she has to put them back in the passenger seat and be like, okay, adult Lou has got this, like, you're okay, we've got this. And it does feel a bit like that. It's like, you know, child Lou would be like, I want to stay in bed, I don't want to get up, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I want to have a lie in. And adult Lou's like, your mental health's really important, you know, this makes you feel better, you know, your relationship with your body's really important, come on, I know you don't want to, but you've got this. So it's that love and compassion and kindness. And that voice didn't always exist, because I think, I mean, they talk about this quite a lot with sort of eating disorders, but you know, the eating disorder is very much focalized in your head, and you know, it almost has like a persona as well. And
yeah,
and a lot of the work I did in recovery is to quieten that voice, and not just to quieten the sort of eating disorder voice that would comment on my body and every inch of it and focus on the negatives and say really cruel, awful things to me. It was all very well quieting that voice, but I had to invest so much time and energy in making a louder, bigger, brighter voice. So that's why when I say things like I'm loving on myself, I really mean that. Like, I mean, because I know that voice has to be so loud to quieten the eating disorder voice. And as soon as I feel that, you know, eating disorder voice getting louder, I'm just really, really mindful of it. So so the loud voice that I've created is like, I can share it with you. It's quite funny. It's like my eating disorder voice is like a woman with her hair scaped back and a bun and a pen, and it's like, count the calories, nothing's ever good enough. You know, she's just like she's all about you know, she's really strict and anal and
I'm a bit scared of her.
my positive voice is like, what is like an American cheerleader? Whoa, you've got this. Louise, Louise, go Louise, go Louise. She's like an American cheerleader who just loves me and is just like, you're amazing. Oh my God, you're incredible. You're fantastic. And honestly, that is the voice that I've created that tells me, you've got up this morning. Oh, you're running at life. You've got clean clothes on. This is amazing, Lou. Look at the minute. And it sounds, I mean, it is funny because it's so over the top, but actually that's what I needed to get into recovery. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I'm talking about an eating disorder voice, but for me, when I share that with a lot of friends who've never had an eating disorder, they can really identify.
Oh, I absolutely identify with that. I definitely have that voice.
Yeah, because
it's not really even my voice. It's made up of all the things that have been kind of thrown at you over the entire course of your life.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's and part of that loud voice is also like what I consume. So that affects those voices.
I guess a lot of the research points to social media as saying, you know, this is really like the worst thing that's happened to our collective self-esteem. Certainly in Western society, it sort of seems to be pinpointed as the main source of people feeling terrible about their bodies and who they are. Do you agree with that? And what's your own experience of using social media?
Yeah, I think it's tough because actually, no matter how much you curate your own feeds, you know, you will still unfortunately get bombarded with those messages, and whether it's sponsored adverts, you know, or sort of other means, they're still getting through the gaps. So for me, I have like digital free days where I just come completely off social media, or I've done that for a weekend before, or I've done it for a week, however much I thought I needed. And I think that, you know, I'm quite happy to see a lot of people starting to do that as well, because I do think that's a gift to yourself. It's just like having that time off, not having that input. And the time you have off, it's focusing on, and you're not even focusing on, you're experiencing what your body can do. And you're much more in your body because you're not in your head watching all that social media. So I feel like, unfortunately, I think digital breaks is the only way to really come away from it. I think when I am on social media, I very much curate my feed, whether that's Twitter, you know, or Facebook or Instagram. Probably a bit like yourself. Unfortunately, I do need to be on social media for my social enterprise. And that's why I'd say one of the kind of upside for social media for me has been, I would never have discovered like Jessamine, an incredible yoga teacher. I remember the first time I seen her and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe how fit and strong she is. And she might have been like 2 or 3 times the sort of size I was. And I was watching her doing these like incredible movements. and the strength you could see in her body, and also how much she loved her body. She was wearing, and she continues to wear, she wore like really revealing tops and bottoms, and she just looked phenomenal. And I was watching her going, and it influenced me already, because I watched her and I was like, I think I'll get some jazzy leggings, because I kept thinking to myself, oh, I even was having the thought, I'm not thin enough to have those skin tight leggings. I wouldn't look right in them. And then I seen Jessamine and I was like, oh, I'm going to buy myself some really friggin' cool leggings. So I think, yeah, that really impacts you, like what you're consuming. So I think the upside of social media is just finding those people that lift you up, they make you feel good about yourself, that you can relate to, that you can identify with, and having all those different bodies that do amazing things, I think is so, so important. But one thing I would say, and I think we've spoken about this as well before, is it's quite tough actually, because when I was larger and I was maybe I don't know, sort of three stone or so. I haven't weighed myself for ages, so I don't know, but I'd guess about 3 stone heavier than I am just now. Um, there was quite a few friends that said, when I said to them I felt really uncomfortable in my body, I hadn't been this heavy before. And I suppose it was friends that also were about the same size as I was then, were saying, but you should be proud of yourself and you should feel really, you can be beautiful at any size. And it's like, you can be, and absolutely. But my weight was gained through an eating disorder, and I have a very negative association with the weight I'm carrying around. I felt like I was trapped in my body. It was really horrible. It's like wearing a fat suit that someone had made me wear, and everything just felt like more work. I was exhausted, because I hadn't been that weight before. So I just felt really tired and lethargic all the time. So it was really hard, because it's like, I think we also need to be mindful of, there's lots of different reasons that people are overweight. And I say overweight because it is for, we know there's a weight we can be that we're healthy, we're less likely to get sick, and there's a weight where we're more likely to get sick. And I think we need to be mindful of that, because absolutely big is beautiful. And I a lot of my friends are, God, they're so kick-ass and look amazing and are so body positive. But I think we need to be mindful that we don't project our own experience onto other people, because I think women's experiences are so unique to them. I think bodies are so complex, and we all have our individual journeys. So what could be one size where they feel like superwoman and feel amazing can put someone else into depression, or they can feel completely disassociated from their body. So I think it's not projecting your own experience onto other people, and just respecting that everyone has their own experience. Because I think, as I sort of lost weight and became fitter, again, those sorts of, some of my friends said, I hope it isn't the pressure of feeling that you have to. And it's like, no, it's nothing to do with the outside pressure. For me, it was, the reason I lost weight is because I got into recovery, and I wasn't binging anymore, and I was eating healthily, and I was moving my body. And for me now, yes, I just happened to be smaller, but the real life win for me is that that eating disorder voice is really quiet. My mind is more peaceful. I have a more positive relationship with my body, with myself. Like, that's the real win for me. It just happens to be that, and that I have I've got a really loving relationship with my body now that I didn't have before. And I would love to have had that relationship, at any size. But it just so happens, if I eat 3 meals a day, this is the size I am, and it's still not within a healthy BMI, but it's, I feel the happiest.
Don't even get me started.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, I think I'm so glad that you said that. It's a shame, I think, that we're kind of in an era where it's quite difficult to have conversations like this publicly, because I think it's very difficult not to project your own experiences onto other people. It's very difficult not to feel like maybe people should take responsibility for how you're going to react to what they're telling you about their life and the journey they're going through. And so I definitely feel that the most important thing is for each person to really take time to kind of interrogate what's going on for them, to not be afraid to follow the journey that they need to follow if they want to pursue better health, and they're looking at medical information that's, indicating, and I'm not talking about BMI because I think that's absolute bullshit, but
Yeah.
but yeah, if a doctor is telling you need to maybe think about your health and that losing a bit of weight might help with that, and you decide that you want to do that, that should be absolutely fine. And I know of people who've been kind of ostracized from a sort of body positivity community because they've made that decision. And I don't think that that's right. Just as I don't think that it's right that people who've lost weight through the pandemic are applauded in society for, oh, wow, you look so healthy, when actually we don't know why that is. And some of those people might have a panic or an anxiety disorder that's caused them to lose weight. And I think that's what you said there is so crucial, that, weight is just one part, one symbol of what's going on with us. But mental health is so important, and it's something that only we can really know the state of our mental health.
We can change the conversation by not commenting on each other's weight and focusing on what our bodies can do rather than what they look like. Because I think if I've realized anything during my eating disorder recovery is that, gosh, your body really does change, like day to day, week to week, month to month. And I just feel like it's just the skin that I'm in, and I want to love in it and I want to look after it. But I'm 42 now, and my body looks different to it did last year, the year before. And the big learning curve for me is, are there conditions to me loving my body? And at the beginning of my eating disorder recovery, there was conditions. It's like, well, yeah, because I just want it to be thinner and I just want it to be stronger. And I just want it, before I used to think, oh, my arms are a funny shape. And I was very focused on that. Whereas now I think these arms have hugged and loved so many people. The friendships, the family, or these legs have taken me all over the world. They've taken me to the top of Nepal. They've taken me into, the Thailand seas. And I really do think like that now. I think what this body has done for me is incredible. And am I really going to nitpick that it's got a stretch mark? Am I going to nitpick that one boob's bigger than the other? Am I going, is that really what I'm doing? And when you're talking about personas before, I sometimes imagine my body speaking back to me, and it makes me laugh, because even the other day I was thinking, because I had dropped a lot of weight and my skin was a bit looser, and I was thinking, oh, my skin's got a bit looser down there. And I caught that thought, and I imagine my body saying to me, are you joking? You've had us up, down, we're the fittest and healthiest we've ever been. And now you're talking about loose skin? Seriously? And I was like, you're right. This has happened because I've worked really hard at training for the last few months. Thank you, body. That was a good reminder. Thank you. You've done well.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
When people say things to me, I really, it's so, what's the word? It just holds such little weight, because I think, I can look like 100 different things. I'll give you an example. I could get my picture taken for, I got a picture taken for a comedy festival. I had lots of makeup on, there was lighting, and lots of people said, oh, you look incredible, you look amazing. And I looked at it and thought, I don't recognize myself in that picture. I don't think I look like that. That's just a moment. And equally, I sent a funny picture to my sister with my hair out to here the next morning and no makeup on. And it's just like, all of us can look 101 different ways all the time. And I think we just try and grasp onto this fixed image. We'll have good pictures of ourselves. Well, I used to do this before. I'd be like, well, that's what I look like. That's what I look like. And I've had to really relax it and go, Lou, you look like lots of different ways. And that is forever changing. So any grasping and holding on to it is exactly that. It's grasping onto something that isn't tangible. I might never look like that again in that lighting with that makeup at that. So I think there's something about, not to say I don't enjoy getting dressed up, or I don't enjoy, I love doing things like that, but I just, I think it's made me really mindful of how often we comment on appearance and bodies. So I have definitely stopped doing that as much as I can. And I've also encouraged friends to stop doing that, especially close friends who, as I was losing weight, would say, oh, you're looking really good. You've lost more weight. I'd have to explain to them why that was really unhelpful for me. And once I did explain it, they totally got it.
That's so beautiful. I was going to ask you, about what advice you would give to someone. What advice you would give maybe to yourself if you could go back in time and find your 16-year-old self who was struggling with all of those kind of different challenges at the same time. Is there anything that could have helped you?
Yeah, I think back then it was yeah, not feeling like I fitted in. I felt like an outsider. I felt weird. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like a weirdo. And I remember I say that word because I remember somebody called me that once. And I think just, yeah, saying to myself that all the things that people think are weird about you are going to be your friggin' superpower. All the things that you think feel uncomfortable about, you are going to own every single one of them. It's that owning your story. And yeah, like wait till you get, you know, all the struggle, all the adversity. Yeah, you're going to build up all this resilience that you're going to be able to really come into yourself as an adult. Yeah, and all those very things that you hate about yourself, believe it or not, you're actually going to love about yourself. Because even my sexuality, I really struggled with, and now I'm like the most outest, queer, proud woman ever. But yeah, so I would just reassure myself like it's tough just now, but yeah, things will get better, and it won't always be like this. And yeah, you really need to. I suppose I would give one bit of advice to my 16-year-old self is be really mindful of that voice in your head. It can do a lot of damage. Yeah. So I would, yeah, be really mindful of that voice in your head and start at a very early age. I think it's so positive to start cultivating that positive voice. Because even if you don't have an eating disorder, I think as a woman, as a girl, or even for men and boys as well, but for all genders, being in the world, there are so many messages about not being good enough, not being thin enough, not having the right body. I think cultivating that positive, loving, kind voice is an investment in lifelong good mental health. That so just at a very age, learning to focus on what you do well, learning to focus on the positive, learning to celebrate things, learning it's okay to make mistakes. All those lessons I learned as an adult, I wish I'd learned as a 16-year-old.
I would just have you as a cheerleader any day, Lou. You're full of so much wisdom and so much just incredible enthusiasm and energy. And it is, yeah, such a privilege to talk to you. I'm just going to finish up there and say thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's been lovely, actually. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Oh, thank